Now, one of the biggest issues in our industry is mental health. This is something I learned that actually, something came to the fore for me back in 2018 when a builder got in touch with me through the show of Fixed Radio to say that his father had took his own life, and that he took over the business, and he felt like he wanted to take his own life. Initially, I have to be honest with you, both, that I thought it was a wind-up. I actually thought somebody had phoned in as a bit of a wind-up. It was only when I met the guy afterwards and I found out exactly how he was affected, and the people that I've met since then, and you know by now, you listen to the show, we're losing 2 of our industry every single day to suicide. And that all comes stemming from mental health and the pressures of the job. And it's a massive issue. And it's so important. So where are you, James, in this? Have you ever had in your time a time where you felt really, really low and you felt you were in having a bit of a mental health struggle that you couldn't feel you could talk to anybody about?
It always gets me in winter. It's just the dark mornings, because I always set off early. It's the dark mornings. You're driving to work, because I work outside all the time, in the rain. You sat in your car, the rain is pounding down on the car, and you've got that choice whether you either go out, get wet and work, or you go home with no money. So you're always got that constant fight between putting your physical health to the side and your mental health for actually, if I don't work, I'm going to be thinking I need the money. And January is always a bad time for me. I really do struggle with it. I won't be scared to admit that.
But when you say you're not scared to admit it, are you good at talking about it? Can you relieve?
That's one thing.
Do you feel you're burdening somebody else if you're going to spill the beans on something like this, that you're struggling? Because we are in, with respect to Kimmy, a macho industry. It's a very macho industry where the show must go on. You put the face mask on, everything's good, when clearly everything isn't. Believe me, I've for a documentary I was doing, I spoke to the people that get left behind, and it is the saddest and most devastating time in anyone's life. But when you're listening to the stories, wow, it hurts. And I've got to be honest, I was completely ignorant to this. I worked on sites, worked with, my own businesses and so on, and never once thought, and this is awful, but I never once thought about people's mental health. I never once thought about going, are you okay, by the way? It was just everybody doing their job, and you didn't spend that time to pick out, because you were so busy, to pick out whether somebody was suffering or not. And I think it's important that, and particularly in men, that they can talk about it.
I just prefer to get my head down and kind of get on with it, because I know the better weather is coming. And because I work by myself all the time, the only sort of interaction I have with anybody I see on my way to work is through social media. So I have found a way of getting out, because people who follow me now have picked up when I'm not all right, and they'll just drop me a message saying, "You all right today, mate?" And before, I never really had that. And you don't want to go home. Yeah, of course it is, because you don't want to go home and burden your wife with it, or you don't want to burden your mum with it. So you just deal with it.
They wouldn't actually see it as a burden, though. You know that. It's our perception that they would see it as a burden.
Yeah.
A problem shared, a problem halved, and all that. I'm sure your wife must have said, you must have talked about this
she knows
before.
now.
And she's saying, look, you've got to tell me, you've got to talk to me about it. Because those stresses and strains, for anybody that, we now know we're losing, 2 a day, which is awful statistic. For the United Kingdom, this is as well. So even while we're talking, somebody could well be doing that.
Yeah.
You know, and I've talked on national radio stations, other national radio stations, TV, and I've been with people who've been close to the edge, and we've managed to bring them back. But it's so important because these jobs that you do are very, very pressurised. You've got deadlines, targets. You've got to bring home the bacon, as they say. And so therefore, all that added pressure can make a massive difference to you mentally. So being able to have that, you know, now you've got your congregation, if you like, of your followers, they can always help you. Yeah. If they spot that James isn't quite on his game, it's great that they ask you that question. Because I think it's such a simple question to ask, are you okay?
Yeah.
You know?
And I like now sometimes when I do get home, now we've got Daisy, the dog who comes to work with me as well. I go out for a walk with my wife and we call and have a drink after. And just that walk helps me detach from everything else that has been running round my head all day while I've been on my own.
Yes.
And for anybody who's ever worked on their own, if they've not got the right things running through their head that day, it can completely change the perception of how they see things.
Yes.
You know what I mean? They can see black as blue and blue as red.
Yes.
And sometimes actually talking it through with another person helps you realise that you've completely perceived that situation as not what it was. Especially if it's over a message as well, because they can be quite easily misread.
And for Kimmy, she can't see that blue is red or red is blue because that'd be too dangerous, especially when you're doing any connecting up. But from your perspective, Kimmy, have you ever been in a situation where your mental health has been affected or you've been down and you haven't talked to anybody about it and it's really affected you on a personal level?
Yeah, so when I first started out my Instagram social media journey, I was one of those people that every day I was happy. I would have an off day, maybe once every 2 months. Every single day I was so positive and happy. And I remember when I would have a down day, somebody would say, "Oh, you're right," and I'd be like, "No," and they'd be like, "Whoa, you're not okay?" I don't know what to do, because they would always, you know, I'd always be okay. And over the last year, I've literally had the hardest time of my life. Every single day, I just about made it, and due to my personal circumstances. But what happens is, I think the number one thing is perception. So slowly, you know, I started sort of taking everything that was happening as something that was my own fault, which it wasn't. And then after a while, one day every now and again turned into a week, turned into a month, and then next thing you know, it was months and months where I didn't feel any joy. And obviously I'm getting a little bit emotional.
Okay, well, look, you can take a break, but it's so important, and we're so pleased that you can talk about it. I know it's difficult.
It is. You know what? The thing is, it's very difficult. Being a woman in the trades, you said it's a macho industry. I'm already attacked for being in the industry as it is being a woman. So imagine now I came in here and I was all emotional about it, talking about mental health. They will tell me to go away. Like, why are you here, you weak woman? Do you know, this is what happens. And this, you know, when you said the perception, this is what I feel like would happen. So this is why I don't really talk about mental health stuff, because I feel like it's a man industry, so I should be strong, right? Can I really be a woman in a man's industry and then talk about mental health and have mental health breakdowns and talk about how I'm feeling and emotions? I feel like personally I can't do that, because I'm already judged for being in the trade, and I don't want to be judged as a hormonal, emotional woman. And these are the kind of things that happen, you know. But yeah, so over the last few months especially, I've literally had the hardest time of my life due to personal circumstances.
So this is due to things that are happening outside of
my work, and then work as well. So that adds to it. So what happens is, when you're feeling low and your mental health is down, your perception changes. So you are no longer seeing everything for the positive that is. You don't look at the sun and think, wow, the sun's out, I'm so grateful I'm alive. You're now looking at, oh, this client didn't get back to me, and you're looking at all the negative things, and you're building a storyline in your head of everything that confirms how you're feeling. So it becomes a downward spiral. So that's what happened to me. And the more aware I was of what I'm doing to my own self, building that perception, the more I felt like I was getting stuck. So yesterday I had a full-on mental breakdown. I was like crying in the car, and just because of life and also work. Okay. So I had a client who refused to pay me. It's been a month, And it's the principal. Every day he would lie to me, say, oh, I've transferred, did you not receive it? Oh, I need to do some VPN setting or whatever. And every single day he would make up an excuse. And it was the fact that I had to beg for my money that I earned doing a job. And these kind of things just all get on top of you, as well as, you know, having no support in my personal life because of everything that I'm currently going through. So normally what I have is, you know, social media. So we have the support of the community. But again, I feel like I don't want to be on here already seen as a weak woman in the industry and then cry about mental health. No. It's perception, right?
The thing is, you are not a weak woman, right? First and foremost, look at where you've come from. Look at the journey you've been on. You're a woman in an industry that people don't expect to achieve like you've done, right? As simple as that. You are that shining light, Kimmy, right? So you are putting yourself out there, and we're proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
Right? We're disappointed that you're going through a lot of traumatic time and stress, and it saddens me to think that that is the case. But at the same time, it's so important that you talk about it and you get it off your chest. And I think that is the most important thing. What you're doing now is not only helping other women, but it's helping men, right? Because men are not very good at letting their feelings known, right? James just pointed out there, he didn't want to burden anybody. He didn't want to burden anybody else. Now, I'm happy for James. I'm not happy for his wife, but I'm happy for him to go burden his wife. James can come burden me. You can come burden me. I would much rather you do that, because it's not a burden to me. I will soak it up and I'll help as much as I can. And there's lots and lots of people out there that will do exactly the same. Sadly, there are one or two idiots who just think that, you know, she's a woman or whatever. You're already, listen, what you've battled through so far to get where you are and to be where you are, I'm asking you now on a personal level to be proud of what you've done. Be proud of what you've achieved. Don't let outside influences, even on a private level, right? If something's happened to you in your private life and somebody, you know, has done you wrong, we cannot carry on allowing that to press us down. We've got to break free of that, and we've got to make sure that we're going forward and we stay happy. You know, that happy Kimmy you were talking about, that happy Kimmy needs to, if she hasn't returned already, she needs to return to the gig, because that's what we need. You know, and I'm not saying put on the happy on purpose and put a mask on. I'm saying relieve yourself of the burden, talk about it to anyone you like, right? I'm an ear. I'm happy to be an ear for that, to help you get over whatever problem that you've got now. But I think because you're so special, you've done such a fantastic job. What you're saying today, and when people are looking at this podcast and they're listening to you talking, you're doing more for our industry from a female's perspective than you can even imagine through the power of what you're saying. And I realise it's upsetting you, and I get that. But at the same time, it's Kimmy's life.
Yeah. Right?
You're a young woman, loads of great things to happen yet, and you can force that issue for it to be great. So you're still struggling at the minute with what's going on in your private life. How are you actually dealing with that? Because you've got to still go out to work.
Yeah, so every day what I do is I just get dressed. So that's the biggest way. So even if I don't have any work booked for the day, or you know, if I've stayed up all night crying or whatever it is, I'll still wake up in the morning and put my clothes on, and then I'll just go out. And then what I'll do is CEF, they have got me through this. So there is a branch, a very special branch. They literally have a desk there for me. And if I don't go there for 3 days, they know my mental health's down. And they call me, they're like, Kimmy, are you okay? Come in, we'll get you lunch. And they'll just make me tea, get me lunch. And I literally sit there for about an hour just talking about my problems. And I know they don't care because it's not their problems, but it's the fact that I get to vent, listen, and I feel like they'll just say, don't worry, Kimmy, you'll be all right. So they get me through it. So what I'll do is I'll literally get dressed and just go and sit in that CF. And then work always comes in, and then I'll just get on and do it. So that's the biggest way I'm coping with just getting out the house and going to work. And all my personal problems, it's just things that I don't know how I'm going to deal with, and they just
still don't know how you're going to deal with it.
No,
is it still a burden now?
It's still a big burden, and it's something that will not finish over the next few months. It will continue for the rest of the year, unfortunately, because it's a very complicated scenario and situation.
For the whole of 2024?
Yeah, we'll have to explain
We're
to
going to be keeping a close eye on you.
So it's just something that I know will be continuing, so I have to find ways to deal with it. So on social media, what I've done is created a close friends group on Instagram. So all the people that I genuinely speak to and have a connection with, I've added them on there. So I just do little rants. So I'll just like post my regular stories, but only a few select people who can see it that I've bonded with on Instagram. And then whoever has the capacity on that day to reply back to me, then they'll give me a call or a message, and they've held space for me to just kind of just offload or wherever else, and that's been really helpful. So I'm really grateful for the trades community that's done that. And yeah, I think that the rest of it is just perspective. It's very hard for when people say, "Oh, just get on with it," or just improve your mindset, do some breathing and cold showers or whatever else. It's very hard when you're in there, because it's like murky waters, you can't see, you don't know your way out. But I have been here before in the past and I've got out of it, so I know that I can do it once again. Hence why I don't have any like suicidal thoughts or anything like that. Obviously, I'm okay, because I know I'll make it. It will take a long time, but I know I'm okay. And I know that if at any point I wasn't genuinely okay, there are people here that I could reach out to and they would help.
Yes.
So yeah, that's what's helping me sort of just get on with it, get to work, and just...
Did you have suicidal thoughts?
In the past, I have. And again, it was to do... A lot of it is interconnected. So when things happen, you go on a downward spiral, somehow everything else that happens in your life follows. So my clients, again, would just become difficult clients or not pay, or I had a builder that ruined the job for me. I paid him to come and help me do something, and he drilled a hole in the middle of the floor, damaged the bathroom, damaged everything. My insurance didn't cover because that work, because it was subcontract. He didn't have insurance, so basically I had to pay out my own money. So I was left with no money to pay my bills. Wow. And when my car insurance I wasn't able to pay it. It was only like £250 and couldn't pay it. So I was like, I can't work. So basically I was very suicidal, and whatever happened. But luckily one of my friends called me literally as I was in the process of going through that whole preparation for whatever. Obviously this is triggering, but don't know how to express it properly. But luckily I had a phone call from a friend, and he just said, "How are you doing?" And I said, "Look, you called me at a time, because if you called me 10 minutes later, I probably wouldn't have been here."
Wow. And
he goes to me like, "Oh, what's up?" And I said, "What?" I literally had a flash of him attending my funeral and finding out that I killed myself because I couldn't afford the £250 for my insurance. And that stopped me. And I just cried, and I just pulled over. And after that, I was like, whoa, there's actually... I could have just asked for someone to lend me the money, but it was just the fact that I felt like a failure. And everything just got to me. So yeah, after all of this, anyways, it's been quite a few years. Now I know that I've been there before, I can get out of it, but it's just difficult in the process. So yeah, and I know there's a lot of people that feel that way, especially in the trades, being men as well.
Yeah.
You have to be the provider for your family a lot of the time.
Yeah.
You can't go to your wife and say, let me whatever else, and you don't really want to burden your wife with financial problems or whatever else, especially now with all the material prices rising, everything else, and all these dodgy clients and everything. It's very, very hard, and I know a lot of people feel this way. But yeah, if you do feel like that, just reach out to anyone.
Yeah, and I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Kimmy, that surprised me. That's really surprised me, and we're going to wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, thank you.
Going forward, because you are amazing, and you keep thinking that way. You're doing a brilliant job. I can't help with the private aspect of it. I'm going to cross my fingers and say to you, I hope it all clears up very soon, and you can break through that. There's keep getting you down. And to those people who aren't paying you, right, I'm hoping it's not just because they're taking advantage because you're a woman and they just think they can do what they like. Let's hope that they pay up. If they haven't already, let's hope they pay up and not take you for granted because you are a little superstar. Absolutely, Kimmy, thank you.
Thank you.
And James, that's through me. Sorry, my man.
Sorry.
But listen.
Again, I feel like a burden. I'm like, sorry, everyone. But
don't.
But yeah, no.
Please do not. You can burden anytime. Burden anytime. Same with James. If he's feeling down, he can get in touch. No problem. Right? Simple as that. If you need a voice, you need somebody to talk to, listen, we're so glad that 10 minutes didn't happen. right? And thanks to your mate, thanks to City Electrical Factors as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, let's hope that in the future, you've got a great future, I promise you.
Oh, thank you.
You've got a great future.
A bright future.
A bright future. A bright future. Kimmy the Bright Spark's future. And James, thank you so much, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Kimmy the Sparks and James the Yorkshire Stonedresser.